I don't have anything nice to say about you guys this time. Oh well.
Live.
That's a great way to go live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mr. Video Games. It is Thursday, September 27th, 2018, and this is your Mr. Video Game Live Super Show as brought to you by Dead Sun Entertainment. We are the Dead Sun. I am, of course, Slacker Kite, aka Travis. And with me today, just fucking say your names. I don't care this time.
Jesus. My name's Slacker Kite, and I'm a lazy shit. This is Lady Goggles. Did you know that there were no women on the Earth until 1964? True story.
Fun fact.
Only 1964? I thought it was like much later, like 2013.
No, that's what they want you to think. Turns out that women have been around for just a little bit longer than.
I mean, I'll tell you this much. I went back and played Madden 2010 recently, and no women in that game, so, I mean...
You know, we're hitting...
Prove me wrong?
Easter egg.
This is Brian Bell, also known as Wonder Boy. Yeah. I was just more shocked at how Travis just the anger and the spite.
Listen,
like
instead of actually coming up with the intro for the video today, I've been playing Dragalia Lost. So, you know, there's that.
Dragalia Lost.
It is a fun mobile game developed by Cygames, who primarily develop other mobile games. Most notably in their backlog is Grand Blue Fantasy, which has such composers as Nobuo Uematsu. I remembered that off the top of my head.
Yay!
I don't remember if I still said it right.
Hooray! You got it close enough.
We got it close. Anyway, so they have made a new game and it is published by Nintendo themselves, amazingly enough, going into like the full-on mobile market rather than just dipping their toe in the water. This is the first one with gacha style games, as in loot boxes.
Hooray!
But it is a free roaming RPG where you and maybe 3 of your other friends, or just 3 other party members from your party, go diving into a dungeon together.
Nice.
So it's nice, you know, either online co-op or single player, however the hell you want to play it, it's there for you. I played it like 2 hours today between lunch and before the stream, and so far I haven't had to pay for shit. Which is usually a good sign.
Yeah, that's the first thing I really want to hear anytime that we're talking about a mobile game.
There is a stamina meter, but so far the stamina meter has like never dropped to any serious amount so far for going into dungeons and doing things. And even if your stamina meter were to drop and you need to regain, there's other things you can do, such as building your castle and leveling up your characters and reading the comic.
Reading the comic.
Yeah, there's a whole webcomic they've put together in regards to the game.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a comic strip. I don't remember where exactly you find it. I think it's like comic.dragalialost.com. Yeah, there it is. But yeah, there's neat little comics that you can look up of things going on.
Things that made you go,
I'll link it in Mr. Video Games if Joan wants to throw... It's called Dragalia Life, that's it. But there's always things to do and stuff going on, and it's cute. It's adorable. And I'm hoping that I can play through it without having to spend a whole lot of monies. Granted, I've only got 2 hours into it, so, you know, maybe I'm not the person to talk about whether this game will eventually want to drain all of your caches. But it's got a nice story going for it, which every, like, one of these games I've ever played so far has never had.
What is this story you speak of?
Yeah.
Okay, so the story in the game is that you are the seventh heir to a kingdom, and you go out and you bond with a dragon because your dad asked you to, basically, and you want to help protect your kingdom. While you're gone, your twin sister is dragged away from you, and somebody that looks like your dad but apparently isn't your dad takes over the country and reclaims it as the bad guy country.
What?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's chapter 1.
All right.
That doesn't seem dense at all.
It's very JRPG.
All right.
Mr. Video Game, more like a Mr. Sellout, says cynical streamer.
Yeah, not wrong. I maybe pitch a little bit of that money for the Nintendo. Maybe they'll pitch me back a free game or two.
Never know. Honestly, like, I think it's very nice that we're starting off with something that is actually pleasing.
Well, see, I had the same idea, but
because, dear God, people that have joined this hour of power.
We've got a few downer stories to talk about.
It's gonna be a spicy podcast. Mwah.
Oh God.
Shall we just jump into it, as the news kids are saying these days?
Please.
If you have nothing else to say about your lovely JRPG Kingdom Crisis.
When you walk away, you won't hear me say, please, oh baby, shut up.
Wow. So, the big news this week, obviously, is that Telltale Studios is taking its first step to shuttering its doors, firing 250 employees at one go.
This is big oof energy. Looking at Polygon, this is an article written by Ben Kuchera, who's one of the, in my opinion, better authors out there in game journalism. But this broke Friday of last week, so obviously that's why we're covering it now. So TLDR, they made an immediate release that included the fact that the studio is going to be closing. Only 25 employees would stay on to fulfill what they call the company's obligations to its board and partners. CEO Pete Harley says, quote, "It's been an incredibly difficult year for Telltale as we work to set the company on the new course. Unfortunately, we ran out of time trying to get there. We released some of our best content this year and received a tremendous amount of positive feedback, but ultimately that did not translate to sales. With a heavy heart, we watch our friends leave today to spread our brand of storytelling across the games industry." So, essentially, and the bitch of it is that about a week ago, they had hired a handful of people, families relocated to move over there, and then they dropped this bomb. So, on top of this, and on top of some employees basically just getting the heave-ho that day, it's Fortnite ads, the people who were let go did not receive any sort of severance pay. They were just let go. So all across Twitter, the hashtag Telltale Jobs has been trending. People have been trying to, share different jobs in the industry. Ubisoft has hosted or will host a dinner, like totally free for former Telltale employees to see if they can get them some jobs, which I think is really kind-hearted of Ubisoft. I mean, it's something I have to give them credit for. It's been just a tremendous shitstorm. Here's a tweet from, I'm sure I'm gonna butcher this name, Brandon Sabenka. "None of my sleepless nights or long hours on weekends trying to ship a game on time got me severance today. Don't work overtime unless you're paid for it. Protect your health. Companies don't care about you." And you have to keep in mind, too, that this isn't the first time that Telltale's been accused of working their employees to the bone, of mismanagement, of crunch. And you guys know where crunch is. I don't have to explain where crunch is. So it's been a hot mess. And then on top of all of that, they were still in the process of working on The Walking Dead, the final season. If you bought a season pass, you're essentially fucked, because they were supposed to release a total of 4 episodes. They released 2, and as of the initial article, they were just going to stop at 2 due to the layoffs. Here's where it gets interesting. So If I'm going on too much, please let me know.
No, please.
No, keep going.
You're getting the news
a
completely correct.
long journey. This is the JRPG of shitty studio closures of the week.
It really is. Art, what's going on, dude?
Hey, Art.
So, Telltale turned around and they were like, well, some private investors are trying to give us some money so that we can continue work on The Walking Dead and at least deliver the last 2 episodes. That's all well and good. But nobody's stepping up and saying, hey, let's give Telltale some money so that they can give them some severance pay. So sure enough, 25th of September, this article breaks from Polygon by Sumit Sakar. Telltale hit with class action lawsuit for breaking labor laws. So essentially, former Telltale employee is suing the company in a class action lawsuit. It's allegedly, I have to say allegedly because that's how we protect our asses, it violated labor laws on the books of California. So California has this thing called the WARN Act, which is the Federal Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. Came law in 1988. The gist of it is that businesses with at least 100 full-time workers must notify employees 60 days in advance of any plant closing and mass layoffs. And just to be thoroughly clear, mass layoffs means reduction of 50 or more employees within a 30-day period, or any layoff of 500 or more workers. Now, California's version, the state-level version of the WARN Act, which took effect in 2003, has even more stringent requirements. So it lowers the company size threshold to 75 full or part-time workers and applies to any reduction of at least federal 50 employees. So the complaint is saying that the total layoffs at Telltale amount to approximately 275 employees, which seems to
getting bigger.
Yeah, which seems to correlate with what's been already shown in the media and everything else. So, and that's also not including that skeleton crew of 25 who's still staying on board to meet whatever obligations Telltale had. So it's a whole fucking just complete mess. There's been a recent update to the Polygon article as well, saying that Telltale might be able to fight the lawsuit, but it's going to have a very hard time defending its actions according to the California state version of the law. Some people are saying that some of the exemptions can include business circumstances that were not reasonably foreseeable. The problem with that is that Telltale has been in sort of a financial disarray since its former CEO was suing them early in their year. They already let people go earlier in the year, so there's some precedent to this. So if I had to make an educated guess, I would say that it's not going to look good for Telltale. But yeah, class action lawsuit right now is going on for Telltale, and I'm sure that former employees are going to jump in on that lawsuit as well. What a fucking mess. Let me stop talking. What do you guys think?
I've heard so many think pieces over what happened, and really you can look at it at a three-pronged suit, really, of what happened to Telltale. The first thing is that their technical debt started getting too big. Now, technical debt is when you don't end up developing things to patch the holes to make your product continue to shine. Telltale hasn't really updated much for their backend in ages. Every Telltale game that comes out has the same bugs, looks the same way. They don't have a physics engine within their development studio. So if you want to, say, have a rock rolling down a hill, you have to physically program that rock and the animation for that rock rolling. Rather than, working with physics. While they were talking about moving to Unreal as their new engine base, that never happened. That's one of the big ones. Mismanagement is a huge one because basically you only get so much out of your employees once you start working people 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Making crunch time your standard as part of your corporate advice. You start getting people burnt out, and while they'll make more product, they'll make less interesting product. And if you look at some of the games Telltale's made in the last few years, it's been some of their least interesting stories because it all follows roughly an arc that you're familiar with at this point.
It's been very formulaic. I can't fucking speak today. The point is that it's been a lot of the same stories, the same beats over and over again. The Walking Dead was arguably what put Telltale on the map, And then everything else has been sort of varying quality since then. I mean, like, for example, Minecraft Story Mode. I think it's really cute and I like it, but it wasn't a big hit with the more quote-unquote hardcore fans because Minecraft's for kids, you know? So, and look at the other games that came out, like the Game of Thrones, from what I understand, wasn't that great.
Garbage.
Yeah. Season 2 and 3 of The Walking Dead were not as well received because a lot of the original writers left. It's The Wolf Among Us was probably that, and The Walking Dead first season was the highlight of Telltale's games. But again, even that, it all sort of followed that same formula, and I think that's part of what led to all this. The fact that it wasn't taking any chances, it wasn't breaking out of that rut that it found itself in.
I would
They had
argue
some
that
good.
near the
Go ahead.
sorry.
No,
Near the end, they were starting to think outside the box a little bit. Like Travis has said beforehand, they were looking to move off of their engine that they had been working on for over a decade. They made some really interesting choices with Batman, with their Batman series, this first season of that. I think that was one of the more invigorating titles they had put out in a long time, and I think that fed into what they were planning on doing with Walking Dead season 4. That in a way makes this whole situation a little bit more saddening because they had actually figured out some way to at least make things a little bit fresher. That doesn't excuse the fact that we're now learning that basically the regular work week was 50 to 70 hours, and then they would crunch. I have no idea what you crunch on top of 50 to 70 hours a week.
Yeah, no, that's unacceptable.
Yeah. Also, the fact that basically Telltale was banking on Walking Dead Season 4 to kind of financially float them for a while. Especially whenever from like reports I've seen basically saying that game, like on the back end of it, it is still so much of a work in progress that people should be glad they're getting a second episode.
Yeah,
out of this whole situation.
I picked up the season pass for The Walking Dead like literally days before this broke. Because I got my Twitch payout, and I'm like, oh, sweet, we played through all of the Walking Dead prior games on stream, and I planned on waiting until all 4 episodes came out, and then playing through it, like, all in one day on stream, just do, like, a special, Walking Dead final season thing, just to send it off. So, like, on one hand, I'm just a little upset that, wow, I spent this money, and now I'm not gonna get the 2 episodes. But I'm more upset at the fact that they completely fuck their employees over. Like, there's just no defending that. Like, how?
It's stories like this that always kept me out of the whole, like, people were always like, look, you're a computer guy, you're good with, like, especially telling a story. Why aren't you in games or anything? Because this is the standard practice when it comes to video game developers. 50 to 60 hours a week being the norm is not unheard of within games development, especially more in Japan. It's a little bit less prevalent in America and Canada and Europe, but especially in Japan and, oh god, in China, does games development get super crunchy. And only crazy people who are devoted to the teeth to wanting to do this go in with a AAA publisher to get their first job. I mean, especially these days, you're not going to see stories like Cliffy B anymore or anything along those lines where somebody comes into an existing studio and they're a nobody and through talent and gumption build their way up and start, becoming the big guy on top through showing their ropes. You don't see that anymore. All of the big names came from 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think we're past that as an industry at this point.
Yeah, it's either that or you get in a studio, you produce one good thing, and then you branch off and start your own thing, a la what Campo Santo did, branching off of Telltale.
True,
true. Like they did stuff with Walking Dead, they moved off, they did Firewatch, they got picked up by Valve now, like they are a success story. Because another thing that's really a facet of the story that kind of plays into the narrative of mismanagement within Telltale is the fact that 2 days before the announcement that they were closing was made, apparently both AMC, who owned the license to The Walking Dead, and Smilegate both walked away from investing money into Telltale.
Yeah.
Like, apparently, Telltale had both of these deals set up where they were going to get an influx of cash from these two companies, and apparently AMC and Smilegate felt so bad about where the company was at that they just walked away from the deal. And I believe Lionsgate also, who had been investing in Telltale as well, stopped investing. Like, I don't know whether they like removed the money they had given them, or if like they had an out in their contract and they just said, no, screw it, we're donezo with this, and just walked away from the table. But like, basically anybody who had any investment in this company decided to pack up shop and move on, and because of the state of how things were. It's just crazy to me that that this company was so mismanaged that they were hedging on like all of these different funding things without even trying to think of where the next day's paychecks were going to come.
Well, again, it harkens back to the beginning of the year. You know, Telltale was slipping up, and people were commenting on it, and everybody just assumed that they'd pick up. You know, especially with The Walking Dead last season coming out, and where did that backfire?
When your company is producing 4 or 5 different games every year, you've got Batman, The Walking Dead, Guardians of the Galaxy, Minecraft, The Wolf Among Us. You have too many things going on at the same time. There's still a market for adventure games, sure, but for one studio to put out that much, nobody wants to see that.
Yeah. Cynical. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was also going to say, not only this, like all of their games were based off of high-priced franchises. Like, think about the money exchanging hands just for them to be able to make a Walking Dead game, for them to be able to make a Game of Thrones game. You know, like it's just not sound investing in a lot of ways, especially whenever you have the product come out the way it did.
Yeah. Cynical Streamer, speaking of money exchanging hands, Cynical Streamer asked, do you guys think any illegal money handling happened? And I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, could there have been? Possibly, but it just seems more like blatant mismanagement and them treating their employees like shit. If I had to guess.
More than anything,
Yeah.
is because there is a lot of great talent that was there at Telltale. But once you're telling your people, we need to put out a cycle of games that go along from point A to point B that need to be structured in this way, you start getting people just burnt out on making the same shit over and over again.
Yeah.
And if you take a look at the Twitters for most of these people, these are people fucking dedicated to making these games. They loved the work that they put out. They didn't love working 80 hours a week, but they loved the work that they put out.
Well, let's be real. Who the hell wants to work 80 hours a week, even for a passion project? Like, that's unreasonable.
Brian, you were saying?
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I honestly don't think there was anything like illegal money exchanging hands or anything like that. I think, you know, I basically agree with the rest of the group. It was just, this is probably one of the worst cases of mismanagement we've seen at a studio in a very, very long time. And that's saying something because of how many studios have closed in the past alone. I think Telltale's a special case because clearly these people, whoever was running it, like there was so much miscommunication from the top down. I mean, whenever you're still actively recruiting new employees, which, full disclosure, I applied for a job at Telltale in the past 6 months. So I'm very happy that I did not get that job now. But when you're still actively recruiting people and you have people scheduled to start their new careers with this company in like the week after you make this announcement, like there's just like, combine that along with the work schedules and the clear miscommunication between the financial status of the company being communicated to employees, and then now Telltale basically so abruptly deciding to close up shop that they weren't even prepared to offer severance and health insurance to their employees, which is a tenet of having these things done, which is why you have the lawsuit coming, because honestly, that lawsuit is warranted. That lawsuit needs to happen, and I really don't know where Telltale is going to find the standing to fight this thing.
Especially not under California law. There's a lot more going on for even smaller companies under California law for layoffs of these sizes. They're not going to have a lot of room to fight this.
Oh yeah, no, and it's just one of the other bigger points to me, and this was something that was brought up in the chat. I didn't see who said it, but it was something that I was first brought up in a podcast I listened to earlier this week regarding the Telltale situation, and it's something that really got me thinking. Like, we see the hashtag Telltale Jobs hashtag going around with all these other companies throwing up job listings and saying like, "Hey, former Telltale people, come here. We'll work. We'll see what we can do to offer you work," and that sort of thing. But yet, these same companies feed into the same labor practices that have been going on at companies such as Telltale. Like, the working overtime and the crunch issue is not exclusive to Telltale. It's not exclusive to Capcom Vancouver. It's not exclusive to any company. It's pretty much a widespread phenomenon, if you still want to call it a phenomenon, for lack of a better term. It's so widespread within the industry. This is just how the industry works. It preys off of gung-ho, like, straightforward-minded people that want to come in and work on something because they are passionate about it, and then they exploit the passion to the point that they get the product, they don't need them anymore, and then either through burnout or staff turnover or studio turnover in some cases, you just toss them out, and then they're out looking for another job where it's just the same process repeating, whether it takes like a matter of months or years. There's something systematic within the games industry that needs to change, and I think that this whole event with Telltale is going to see a huge rise in the movement for unionization amongst game developers. I mean, it's already been rising over the past year. It's had more of a voice than it's ever had in the past year. This can only help add to that voice, and it has to make other companies, no matter where they're located or what their general cultural attitude is toward employment and towards work-life balance, it's going to make them all need to what's the word I'm looking for? Readdress how they look at these things. This could be the catalyst for what is needed to change the industry overall. And it's not going to be a short-term thing, but I think that this whole situation is it's, to quote someone else to paraphrase someone else that I heard earlier today, it's the sacrifice that in some ways must be made for a better industry to happen.
Let's face it, it's not just gaming that needs to be readdressed. It's development in general, because crunch time is so prevalent amongst developers of all forms of software. Not every company is a Google or a Microsoft when it comes to their developers that actually give them time and freedom to express and build. Most software development companies really lay on that axe. So I'd say it's not just game development, but just software in general really needs to have a union working for it, because otherwise it's just going to get run over in the next couple of years when more and more money ends up going into developing technology.
No, I completely agree. The tech sector is one of the worst offenders in terms of modern labor laws right now. And, I mean, it's just that we've, with our focus being on video games, and specifically, my focus most of the time being on video games, the thing, this is something that it's really, this is the call to action.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to monopolize the time there.
No, it's okay. I was just like, this is a really good conversation, but we do have...
Yeah, we've all rambled enough. Let's move on and talk about the PlayStation 4 to have something fun to talk about for a minute.
Yeah.
So the PlayStation 4 is finally allowing you to crossplay. Yeah, according to their press release.
The press relief.
Press relief, yes, absolutely. You know, you're bringing aid to those poor presses. Anyway, following a comprehensive evaluation, Sony Interactive Entertainment has identified a path forward supporting cross-platform feature for select third-party content.
Welcome to Nintendo.
Fortnite. We recognize that PS4 players have been eagerly awaiting an update, and we appreciate the community's continued patience as we navigated through this issue to find a solution. So open betas are now starting where players can test out this multi-console thing, and it's about time. Even if it's only coming to Fortnite, it's about fucking time.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. I'm sure it's not just Fortnite. I know that. Fortnite is the reason, obviously, as we previously discussed.
I would imagine Bethesda will eventually be one because they've been one really leveraging that stick.
They have, although there's been the camp out of Maryland down there has been very quiet about what they're doing with Fallout 76 in terms of the crossplay stuff. So who knows? They might have something to say about it, but for right now, that's still a mystery. In terms of PS4 crossplay.
Yeah, it's one of those stories where you just wonder how, like, saying how it happened probably is disingenuous because we all know how it happened. Sony was like, we're the best. Who cares what the other people think? We want to keep our platform closed because it keeps people on the platform, and keeping people on the platform is good. I recognize, as somebody in the tech industry, that there's work to be done to get cross-platform going. But Jesus Christ, if Nintendo found a way to fucking do it, you can do it, I'm sure. You're fucking Sony. You're the people who develop good technology. Just do what you do. That's all we're asking here. Maybe it's too much to ask of Sony.
No, not at all. Like I think pretty much anybody who was around for any E3 discussion, whenever Fortnite came to Switch, like everybody knew that this was gonna. And then the whole kerfuffle with Sony saying their whole thing about keeping their platform closed, like this was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
This was an inevitability. Now, the bigger question is what games are they going to allow to do this? Because honestly, they're being very, very coy about which titles they're going to allow to do this.
Rocket League.
One can hope. One can hope, but make no mistake, this is going to be something that is going to only be utilized whenever it benefits Sony. It's not going to be like Xbox and Nintendo just cozying up to play Minecraft with one another. It's not going to be how these consoles interact with PC in the same way. Like Sony is going to control the pipeline, and I would not be surprised if you're only going to get a select few that are allowed to do this. Like I know I've seen a lot of people apparently talking about like Ark Survival Evolved and Rocket League and Minecraft, obviously Fortnite. Fallout 76 is going to be another big one, but that's who knows what they're going to do with that. From what I've seen, like they have neither confirmed or denied that PS4 crossplay is going to be available, post this announcement. So
I also think that Sony was tired of getting all the shitty press from essentially everybody. Like I still remember, and we talked about this when it happened, but Xbox and Nintendo both threw them some shade. They're like, let's play together. And
Hi,
it was
Dustin.
Dustin, Tarv. Oh, Stony, you'll never learn.
Yeah, so let's go back into the minds of fuck all. Joan, do you want to introduce this as your people only existed for the last 50 years?
That's true. So, let me give you the TLDR as much as one can about Total War Rome. From Nathan Grayson over at Steam, which is I think a subsection of Kotaku.
Yes.
Total War Rome 2 has picked up over 350 negative reviews. You want to take a stab as to why it suddenly got all those reviews? Just take a
was
guess.
there a groundbreaking bug that they recently put out?
No. But you can try again.
Is it a Total War game?
Yes.
Okay, was that the reason why?
No, sadly. There's controversy about women generals in the game. Namely, that they exist.
That was going to be my second guess.
Well, it started off as somebody complaining about this, and here's what the community manager wrote at the time. Total War games are historically authentic, not historically accurate. If having female units upsets you so much, you can either mod them out or just not play. People saying they won't buy the game because there are too many women and it's fine with us. If that's the reason, we'd rather they didn't anyway. And people took a major offense to that statement. And I have the same feeling to that statement as when Diablo 3 came out. And they're like, well, if you don't want to play it, don't play it. If you're not going to have online capabilities when Diablo 3 came out, their statement was, if you can't play it, don't play it. There's other games. Saying that there's other games out there that you can play isn't saying just fuck off and die.
Right, they're just saying, hey, if this bothers you, there are a literal plethora of war games that you can play that have little to none women, which I think is accurate, frankly.
Yeah.
But to continue on with the article real quick, apparently over the weekend people have been losing their fucking minds to the point where the neo-Nazi site The Daily Stormer was covering it. And
when you're agreeing with the Daily Storm, something is fucking wrong with you.
Right. So people, one of these quotes, ruined a totally fine game by bringing modern politics into a BC era game. I'm fine with women, but I'm not fine with political changes in a historically, spelled incorrectly, based game, not even the new one at that. Leave politics in real life, not my games. The overall disdain they have for their base tells it all. That's been upvoted 196 times.
They wanted to put women into the game so that they could bring in marriage into the whole situation. Which, I don't know if you know this or not, but there's no prodigy in medieval times without women.
No, see, it's cultural Marxism. Josh, here's the thing. Women were generals. And even if they weren't, it's okay to have a couple of women in a game, in a video game about warfare. Like, this is the same argument that we had about the Battlefield 5 cover controversy. Oh, there's a woman on the cover. Women don't war. Women, like, it's a contrived argument. You're looking for something to nitpick. And all these people who are bitching about realism don't realize that they're being, for the most part, assholes. I'm not saying that every person who is complaining about this is an asshole, but there's a Venn diagram going on there, and it's almost one complete circle at this point. Like, I think it's a bullshit excuse, honestly. Like, okay, and even then they were like, well, here, let me put a pin in that for just a second, because we'll look at what Total War had to say. So on their Twitter, they wrote this. In regards to the current debate about Rome 2, there have been no changes to recruitable female general spawn rates, but with the addition of the family tree feature and the new gameplay option it brings, playable factions may gain more female family members via marriage. If a player has their male family members seek a wife and get married, more females enter the family. This means more female characters may appear as recruitable generals, but again, only in those factions where female characters may be recruited as generals. Female characters appear throughout the game, but have between a 10 and 15% chance of appearing as recruitable generals for some of the playable factions. The exceptions are the Greek states, Rome, Carthage, and some Eastern factions which have 0% chance, and Kush, which has a 50% chance. These are moddable by players. They're not going to patch it out or remove the feature. So 10 and 15% chance of getting a woman. Worms destroying my game. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. That's ridiculous. Like, at what point do you have to turn around and say, like, you know, oh, this is a video game. It's ruining my immersion. And, fuck it. It's whatever. Let me just play the game. Like, I don't mean to be such a bitch about this, but it's a fucking moot point, and all these fucking people are getting their panties in a twist because women exist in a game? Give me a fucking break. Come on, man.
It's really, it's a boring thing to even really argue against. Who the fuck cares if there's a couple of women in there? It's a low rate, and it's there to continue with the feature of having lineage. That's really it.
I can't have boobs and vagina in my game where I'm killing people. Come on, man. Give me a break.
It's just there for a fucking reason. It's not like they went into it just for a SJW agenda. It's there for a gameplay mechanic reason. That's it.
Yeah, a gameplay mechanic that is accurate.
Like, I know I'm being a little salty about it, but really, like, it's a dumb fucking excuse to negative review bomb a game and to give the community management such bullshit. Like, and
asking them to fire her is really the part where they're going over the line. Now, thankfully, the creators of Rome Total War are better people than most studios. Looking directly at the people who
cough
we've talked about before, but yeah, they didn't fire her. In fact, they backed her up. Thank you.
But you know what, though? Like, I'm not even sorry to say this because I don't think I'm treading on ground that's, like, a contested hot topic. We always see this shit when it comes to female characters in games. Always. 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 There's some problem with the larger gamer community when there's anything about women. It always comes down to this misogynistic bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be an SJWs or anything like that, but it's just, like,
maybe a little SJW.
Almost every fucking time that there is a mention of like, characters that deviate from the norm, there's this huge fucking backlash from the community at large, and it's like, there's no fucking mistaking it, man. Like, this is a trend that's been going on for years. You know what? Call of Duty rarely gets a flock with women characters because, like, that's Call of Duty, right? Like, and I'm not talking about, like, games like Call of Duty where you can play as a woman, or even, I can't think of the other fucking big names, FPS where there's women in it. Like Fortnite, for example. Fortnite has female characters. Whatever, great. Nobody's made a big deal out of that. And some men plays women, some women plays men, vice versa, doesn't matter. Play whatever you want. But it's what I'm saying is that the larger controversies in the gaming industry always seem to revolve around women or female characters. What the fuck is that about? Like, I can't be the only one who notices this. There's a fucking trend going on here. It's been going on well before Gamergate was even a thing. And again, my question is, to what end?
I would say that there is a certain amount of it gets bigger headlines because it's a more compelling story. So, yeah, you do get more of it for just, this is clearly a devil's advocate statement, but you do get some of it for the fact that it's a more interesting story. It grabs people's attention. So you do get a little bit more of this hitting the major headlines because it's more interesting headline than somebody fired because somebody said fuckwit.
Whether it's a good headline fodder or not is not necessarily the question. And I know you're just making a devil's advocate statement, but honestly, like, let's face it, a lot of these sort of backlashes are based in misogyny, are based in prejudice and discrimination in a lot of ways. Let's not be coy about it. This isn't the first time that the argument for historical accuracy was used to support a game that either or to support a reaction to a game rather that fed into discrimination of a marginalized community. Kingdom Come Deliverance was a game that preached historical accuracy, so much so that whenever the game received backlash for its portrayal of Black people and its treatment of Black people, like they defended it because of where Black people were in medieval times, you know. But that doesn't give you an excuse to like explicitly like exploit that that fact. And I think that the fact that Creative Assembly is standing behind what they made in their game and what they did in their game, and the people that have been fighting back against the people that are trying to that have been review bombing their game, I think that it shines through as an example of a studio that is doing at least one thing right. You know, because honestly, let's not face it, we're only a month or two away removed from the whole ArenaNet fiasco. You know, and we saw what ArenaNet did with their writers as soon as they tried to defend anything that they did in Guild Wars 2. So, like, this is a step in the right direction in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. That's the part that I am mostly in complete agreement on, that there was some backlash from the community, but the developers stood by their employees. This wasn't a statement that just came out of left field. This was a statement that was baked into the company culture, and the company stood by its own company culture. So for that, thank fucking God.
Yeah.
Josh was asking, Cynical Streamer was asking, name me one game in recent history somebody bitched about the non-history-breaking woman in game. The Last of Us, people were bitching about Ellie, and then people were bitching about the DLC with Ellie's girlfriend. Like, you know, it's promoting lesbianism. It's you know, more women in the game, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is things that happened. You know, like, and Josh, I see what you're saying. He goes on to say, the average Total War fan goes in for the theme of Total War. I mean, I don't care about women in any games because it's whatever, it's a game. But just saying it's over sexism, that's pretty And I'm not saying the companies. I'm saying, like, a lot of this large response, in my opinion, it's based in sexism. Like, it's a video game. You know, a guy, not you, Josh, but like it's a video game. Like, how I don't know too many people off the top of my head who honestly go into video games for their historical accuracy down to the bare bone. You know, like it's, you know, like even people I know who hardcore play Civ, like they're like, oh cool, it's a woman, or oh cool, it's a Black person, oh cool, it's an Indian. Like it's like diversity is okay. Like,
all right, let's take a moment to breathe, and let's talk about another company closing, just to, you know, take a breath and breathe in something different. Club Penguin is dying off for the final time. This time, Club Penguin Island, which bloomed out of the old Club Penguin, is finally getting taken offline. So much good, beloved time in Club Penguin, going around and harassing children. What a...
I'll be honest, I never played Club Penguin, so I never got to enjoy that sense of happiness that you just described.
It was a free-to-play browser-based MMO that was mostly known for trolling. That let's be real. It was bought by Disney and shut down last year, but Club Disney Canada continued it on as Club Penguin Island, hoping to gain some amount of interest in, you know, re-sparking that brand. And it didn't really seem to take.
Club Penguin was way after my time, so I know nothing about this. I just was like, oh, okay. I thought it was already shut down.
Yeah, that was basically the whole internet's take on this. Well, I thought this was dead. Why is it dying again? But that's where we stand. Yeah, this was basically a large attempt at rebranding the whole Club Penguin thing that just catastrophically capsized, and
Oof. Big oof.
yeah. I don't know. What do the kids do for their MMO experience these days? Is it just Minecraft or
I mean,
Roblox.
Minecraft, yeah, Roblox,
Roblox?
Fortnite.
Yeah.
A lot of kids playing Fortnite.
Yep.
Josh Jr. says Club Penguin Island was a piece of shit and hideous. Club Penguin Original got a fan project. Disney killed it. And apparently it was a really nice fan revival, too.
Yeah, I remember hearing about the fan project that got killed. Like, that was earlier this year.
Disney protects their IPs, man. Like,
but Club Penguin, why would you want to protect your Club Penguin IP? I understand, like, if they started up like a Hotel Cinderella, yeah, you would shut that shit down.
Sure.
But it's fucking Club Penguin.
I don't know.
Maybe a Mario Kart. Who would have? I mean, you know.
Yeah, Nintendo. We're not going to cover this one, but Nintendo is shutting down a hotel that did a Mario Kart themed track for the giggles.
Oh, come on. See, that's fucking dumb. Toontown is still going? Again, that was beyond my time. That was after my time, but wow.
Neopets is still dragging itself along.
Neopets still lives. Gaia Online still exists.
Oh god, Guy Online. Fuck that place.
Also, quick tangent, Josh, I apologize if I got a little heated during the previous story, and like I know we disagree on this. It just it bugs me. So all the love and respect meant to you, dude. Just gaming. But Club Penguin, I mean, I really don't have much to say. Like it bye.
Bye, Club Penguin. Moving on, one that actually kind of hits home for us because we use Roll20. This from Gita Jackson over at Kotaku. There has been a large kerfluffle over Roll20. So a user made some posts about some problems they were having with Roll20, and they had a username that was similar to somebody that had gone around just doing a whole bunch of negative campaigning about Roll20 before.
Mm-hmm.
So just because the name looks similar, they banned the guy. And after he did a whole massive campaign trying to get himself reinstated, they did reinstate him, but with the note, well, we're sorry, you just looked like somebody else who also complained about our website. So basically Reddit has gone up into arms because all of the Reddit moderators also appear to be Roll20 people that work at Roll20, employees of the company.
Which, I mean, that's not unheard of.
No, it's not abnormal.
However, the issue is that they can't seem to be taking any sort of criticism. Like, it's okay to have criticism of your product. It doesn't mean instantly ban people because they're like, hey, maybe you should reconsider fixing XYZ or implementing this feature. Banned. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, when somebody makes a negative comment about your product, your first reaction shouldn't be, oh, you look like a troll, let's ban the troll.
Yeah. Like, what?
You give them the chance to prove that they are a troll, and then you ban them.
Right.
But it's been a huge kerfluffle. A lot of people have closed their Roll20 accounts now over this. So I believe at this point they're looking at handing over the ownership of the subreddit to other moderators in order to keep their hands out of it.
Yeah.
And it looks like most of the moderation staff has stepped down, actually.
And it should be noted that the guy who was originally banned was banned, according to this article, for criticizing Roll20 and for pointing out moderation abuse, trying to quash any sort of criticism. So it's not like this guy is coming in and saying, you know, fuck Roll20, fuck you nerds, blah blah blah. It's just like, hey, your mods are being kind of shitty, and there's some stuff on this site that sucks. That's not really a ban-worthy offense. You know, that's worthy of a private message and going, hey, you know, could you tell us more about it? What's going on? But no, they just...
Yeah.
All right, moving on to our last story of the day. The Swiss fucking hate esports, apparently. Who knew?
God.
Lucky Sport!
Coming from Luke Plunkett. So Brian,
hell.
Brian, do you want to cover this one? Because this one screams you all over.
I mean, yes. Okay, so during a Swiss football or soccer match over.
Oh. Did we
Hello?
lose Brian? Brian,
no.
come back.
So they were having their soccer match, and then all of a sudden, in the middle of the game, people started throwing tennis balls and Xbox controllers onto the field. Some of them being emblazoned with the words "fuck esports," and then groups of fans from both teams unfurled banners with a giant pause sign on them. Basically amounting to a fan protest of esports as a concept that ultimately delayed the game.
Just...
Yeah, I haven't really seen any direct correlation between this protest and like anything sports realm. With it being in Switzerland, I mean, it could be anything from, you know, Overwatch to FIFA. Actually, no, I take that back. This was in direct relation to, like, direct response to FIFA. The EA's FIFA franchise. Now that I remember correctly, basically, I believe that they were. What was it?
I believe they're spending their money on their esports team.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. So basically, much like how 2K started up the NBA league over here, and EA has even established a an EMLS league along in partnership with the Major League Soccer in America. They're doing similar things in other countries where they're getting actual sports teams to sponsor and promote esport versions of their teams in these esport leagues. And a lot of fans apparently in the Swiss league were getting upset that money was being diverted away from the team towards these esports initiatives. And so that sparked the protest that I honestly believe has one of the more expensive ones on record, considering how much an Xbox One controller costs these days.
And there's several on that field. It's not just one.
It's
there's
not just
like
the one, yeah.
In one picture.
Yeah.
All these people mad that the Young Boys Club. That's my favorite part. It's the Young Boys Club fans that are so angry and out of line over the whole esports thing.
And I thought I threw my money away spending money on The Walking Dead final season.
Now, to be fair, it was fans of both teams, and I'm sorry I can't recollect the name of the second team that was playing Young Boys. Because
it doesn't matter. The name is fucking Young Boys. It could be anything.
Basil, whatever. It doesn't.
Yeah, but honestly,
Pause.
like it's just one of those stories that is super interesting because you don't see people interacting with the esports side of traditional sports in the U.S. really that much. I mean, I haven't really looked at the numbers or any analysis of like crossover between NBA fans and NBA 2K League fans. You know, I mean, the Madden competitions do get more traction than anything. I think whenever you are looking at a traditional sports associated esports league, but even then, like, Madden's not a super huge thing. Like, I think honestly, Overwatch League, their first season dwarfs a lot of what these initiatives have been doing, in a lot of ways. But in Europe, you know, obviously soccer is much larger, and usually fan bases over there are about these things. As Josh Jr. pointed out, you know, soccer fans can do some really crazy shit whenever they feel like they are pushed to certain things. I mean, obviously this is nowhere near on par as having officials killed based off of match outcomes, which has happened in the past, or your more traditional soccer riots that we've seen in the past. But I don't know, it's just an interesting thought because you don't really think about these sort of things happening outside of the US, but you know, FIFA is such a monster outside of the US that it would make sense that some of these leagues would be sprouting up in association with these more regional soccer associations. So, all that being said, these protests are kind of about a dumb thing because I don't really think that the money being diverted to these esports leagues would really be better served within the team itself. I mean, there's not a ton of money, comparably not a ton of money being spent by Swiss league club teams as opposed to like your England, France, Spain, and Italy, and Germany. Their league. So honestly, from an analysis standpoint, I don't necessarily know if a lot is going to get done based off of this. It's just more so the fact that someone decided to write "Thug Esports" in a big old Sharpie on an Xbox controller and actually throw it on a field. It just made me laugh, honestly. You know, like I get their point, but there's really not a point to have in a lot of ways.
Also, tennis balls.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, not everyone's going to go out and buy an $80 Xbox controller to chunk. I mean, not everybody can afford that kind of scratch.
But you can't
Yeah,
afford
so
a whole
without the money.
pack of tennis balls.
Have you ever bought a can of tennis balls like $5 for $5?
That's true. That's true.
So that does it for the Mr. Video Games podcast. However, as always, we end our show with naming a Mr. Video Game of the week. It is somebody that has, in some way, given something interesting to look at, either positive or negative, back that just defines what it is to be a modern gamer. And the Mr. Video Game for this Thursday, September 27th, is Bowsette. Ooh.
Oh, who else was it gonna be?
Cause it is the only fucking thing on
That
my
thirsty.
fucking Twitter timeline until today when I wished that I got Bowsette back on my timeline.
Are you looking at the stream right now?
Get Knuckles away. Take Knuckles
Oh,
away.
No!
This is terrible. I do not condone this. I do not endorse this.
We do not endorse this Knuckles, Ugandan Knuckles meme.
Yeah, Ugandan Knuckles does not reflect my viewpoint or my... I put the disclaimer out there. No Ugandan Knuckles. Give me Bowsette. Bowsette all day. Bowsette turned the internet into a wonderful wonderland of Rule 34 bullshit, and I love it.
But Nintendo's gotten a small taste of what Sega has gotten all these years, of the weird thirst that video gamers have for weird bullshit. Starting off with the comic that Lady Goggles is so thankfully showing us of Mario and Bowser getting turned down, a la the end of Mario Galaxy.
Odyssey.
Odyssey, yes, Mario Odyssey. There's too many fucking Mario games, let's be real. And then putting on the new item that we're getting from the Wii U port that's coming to the Switch soon.
Yes.
Hilarious.
It's so good. I am so into this.
And
I
now
don't care
there's a
what it's about.
Buet and a Goombet and a Coopet and just
Yes.
So,
Which Goomba might be my favorite.
yeah. Credit where credit's due. This is from a Twitter user, AYYK92. And they just posted this just for goofs. Like, oh, it's Bowser is the princess now, haha, whatever. This shit exploded. Like, it is one of the top trending things in Japan right now. It's still all over Twitter as a whole thing. People are doing, like, because Inktober is coming up in a couple of days at the start of October. People talking about doing, like, 31 days of Bowsette. Like, it's this whole thing. And, like, I think Nintendo, they must know about it. Like, obviously they're not going to put out any official statement on it. But, what a shock. And then the person who made the comic is, like, kind of stunned that it got out as big as it did, because they were like, whatever, this is just for fun. And, like, it's everywhere now. Just absolutely everywhere. And, they're like, I don't know what I did to get all this attention on me. It's just a fucking dumb comic.
The Yoshiette things that I've seen on the internet now have really just like, it's things you cannot unsee with the tongue.
I'm not gonna show that, yeah. That's not happening.
So Ridleyette was kind of cute in a weird way.
Yeah.
So this has been the Mr. Video Game Show for September
That's it.
27th, 2018. Joan, you got any things to end us with today?
It turns out that Bowsette was the big-tittied goth girlfriend that we wanted all along.
Brian, any parting words?
I did see a headline that read, "Who's more popular, Waluigi or Bowsette?" And I was at a gridlock. I don't know if I'll still be at that gridlock come next week when we chat, but I think it's safe to assume I'll still be at that gridlock.
We'll check in with you next week on that. And until next time, fuck Creed 2 and VR boxing. Good night. We are Mr. Video Game Super Show.
That's a rude motherfucker.
Good night.